Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you mentees? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Hitman Omnibus Volume 1 from DC Comics. One of my most anticipated, most wanted omnis of all time is finally here. So let's go ahead and crack this open. And welcome back, everybody. Now, what we have here is the latest Omnibus edition from DC Comics, and this, of course, is Hitman Omnibus Volume 1. This just recently came out, but I wanted to do an overview of the book. So, if you've never read this, and you've read things like Preacher, or Punisher by Ennis, or Hellblazer by Ennis, I never do this early. I haven't even said hit that like button. Well, I kind of just did now. But stop watching the video. If you've ever trusted my suggestions or have enjoyed Preacher, Punisher, and things like Hellblazer or Fury, Max, or even The Boys, this is top 3 favorite Ennis. And of course McCrae. Just go. Just skip the video. Hit that like button before you leave, though. There, I said it. Okay, now you can go. For everybody else who's wondering what the hell is this and don't trust my suggestions, of course. Yeah, who am I to suggest things? But I just get super excited when I see something that I've been wanting for years come out. So here we have the DC logo, Hitman by Garth Ennis, John McCrae, Omnibus Volume 1 with Steve Pugh, Carlos Ezquerra, I love seeing these names here, and Carla Fini. Here on the cover, I never thought we would get, first of all, this year we got D-Man on, never thought we'd get D-Man on a cover of an Omnibus in the Captain America DM cover by Mark Grunwald. But six freaking pack made it on the cover. None of the other boys, Tommy's gang, made it on the cover. A 6-pack? That's awesome. Of course, you have Etrigan over here, my favorite Green Lantern, which is an awesome quote-unquote crossover. Of course, Batman, which one of the funniest moments happens in Batman issue there. And then the Seal, the zombie Seal. Which we'll talk about. Hitman by Garth Ennis, John McCrae, Omnibus, Volume 1. Love seeing the Volume 1. Come on, Volume 2. The DC logo there. Meet Tommy Monahan. He kills people for a living. Come on, nobody's perfect. What a pitch. Love it. There he is, Tommy. There's a reason why he wears sunglasses all the time. I'll explain all that here in a little bit. This iconic moment from a fallen soldier funeral right here. What a classic issue. The Hitman spine right here, which is very, very similar to the spine of the Dust Jacket. And then this issue right here, man, the series just gets better and better with the flashback issue. And let's quickly take a look at the flaps here. So this is a continuing image of Etrigan in the octopus from that scene there, and then the bio on Garth Ennis and John McCrae. And then, of course, you saw the back. So we are going to crack this book open. I'm going to give you the pitch, and I don't want to dive too much into spoilers, but I am going to speak from my heart why I love this series. So I guess the one thing is, if you don't like stories like Preacher, if you don't like stories, I forgot to say that, if you don't like stories like Hellblazer by Ennis, if you don't like stories like Punisher by Ennis, that you find them too edgy, too full of hyper masculinity, too much brotherhood, too much about them boys, like, I don't even know how to put it. If you don't like the boys, yeah, this may not be for you. But there is a beauty to this book. So I'm going to crack it open. We're going to talk about the stories here. And, of course, check out the extras and the binding. All right. Let's go ahead and get this book opened. I love the bullet holes right here at the end sheets. The Hitman by Garth Ennis and John McCrae. Omnibus Volume 1. In the title page. This is the credits over here. Garth Ennis, John McCrae, with not just John McCrae, but also Steve Pugh, Carlos Ezquerra, Gary Leach, Andrew Chu, and Matt Berker. And then you have Carla Fini, Gene D'Angelo, Stu Shavfetz, and Glenn Murakami as the colorist. The letters, who are equally just as important, Willie Schubert, Pat Prentice, Stephen Haney, Todd Klein, and Ken Lopez. And then, of course, John McCrea and Mike Spicer are the collection cover artists here. Hitman created by Ennis and McCrea. Table of contents right here telling you where you're going to find each of these issues and when they were originally printed, when the stories originated from. Interesting enough, this is mapped a little bit different than what I was expecting. But I'll explain here in a little bit, I promise. But everything you need from, like, if you had the trade paperbacks, everything you need is here, just not in chronological order, which I know it might bother some people, but I'll explain. It does not, I don't think, at least to me, like, it does not interrupt the reading order of this book. So before people are like, oh, it's not in chronological order, don't get too caught up in chronological order. Sometimes I think reading orders are more important because you are going to see books in here. Like, for example, we kick it off with something that came out in 1996. And then, of course, the books back here are when he appeared throughout The Demon, including his first appearance in 1993. The foreword is beautiful. This is for Gary Leach, how John McCrea became friends with him. Oh, I love reading introductions. They're some of my favorite parts about these collections. But this is just him giving him a bunch of love. And then, of course, when he got to work with him on Hitman. So, and who he actually based somebody on Gary's lady at the time. But that won't be until the second omnibus. Here's the introduction from Garth Ennis, talking about how this all came about from a stupid idea. And by stupid idea, he means Bloodlines, the Demon Annual number 2, which I'll go over here in a little bit. All right, what is collected in this omnibus? Omnibus collects Hitman 1 through 33, Annual number 1, The Demon 42 to 45, 52 to 54, The Demon Annual number 2. And that is what's collected in here. Now, if you have the trade paperbacks and you're like, wait a minute, what about Batman Confidential 4? Why isn't that in here? That will be in the second omnibus if it's mapped, because the 1 million is also going to be in the second omnibus. All right, so what in the world is Hitman about? And I debated on how to start this. I debated on how his origins started with the Demon Annual, but the more and more I thought about it, I love this, by the way, the Shadow Force people. I thought, well, let's just introduce you to the character. So Hitman, this is Tommy Monahan. Yes, the G is silent. Is exactly what you think he is, a hitman. He's a hitman that ended up getting superpowers through this event called Bloodlines in the Demon Annual 2, which I'll explain how, I guess, when we get there. But here at the beginning, you are introduced to him and how he gets his hits. He gets to fight the stereotypical superhero team from the 90s called Shadow Force with ridiculous names like Darkstorm and Twilight and Mink, and he just takes them all out with guns. Now, he does have superhuman abilities. He has X-ray vision, and he has, it's sort of a telepathy that I don't want to spoil because that kind of evolves a little bit and then sometimes devolves because he forgets, so he'd rather use his guns. Now, the most important thing about this book that I enjoy is the cast of characters, the supporting cast. So in issue number 1, we're introduced to them. They're all related to some kind of hitman job. So we have this gentleman right here. This is Noonan's Sleazy Bar, and the gentleman that owns it is Sean Noonan. And Sean Noonan is pretty much the father figure to Tommy. He's the one that raised him because Tommy was best friends with this kid named Pat. So that's the other character we're going to meet through these pages at the very beginning, and that's Pat Noonan. Sean's nephew also happens to be Tommy's friend since high school. Or no, since they were in elementary school. And best friends, I mean, they have a bond. So much so that Pat gets a little bit jealous when another one of Tommy's friends shows up a little bit later. We have Ringo Chen right here. And Ringo is also a hitman. So Sean used to be a hitman. Ringo's a hitman. Pat's the guy that gets Tommy the jobs. And we have one more character, and I'll go through here in a second. Wait a minute, that's not Sean. That's Hacken. I'm pointing at the wrong guy. This is Sean, the older guy here. This is the guy that owns the bar. Ringo Chen is almost just as deadly and cold-blooded as Tommy. And it's weird how they have this tension between them, how they don't want to admit who's better, and you might get to find out who is better by the end of the series. And then we meet Hacken. Hacken is this big guy right here who's not very smart, but also happens to be quite a killer. And these guys are just sitting around the bar, smoking stogies, smoking cigarettes. All of them, for the most part, are ex-Marines or special forces. They fought in the Gulf War together. And we'll see Pat here in a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, not Pat, Nat. He has a very similar name. So they're drinking and they're getting to know each other. And even though he's a hitman, you get to learn so much about Tommy in the first few pages. He doesn't kill cops. He has a conscience. Like, he doesn't believe in just killing anybody, even though the price might be huge. And we'll talk about who his first target is in the first storyline here in a second. But this is where we get to see the Lords of the Guns. Lords of the Guns, these people right here. These demons called the Arcanon. And what the Arcanon do is summon this agent right here, this Nazi, ex-Nazi, who is like made up of different bodies, known as the Mauser. And because they want Tommy to work for them. Oh, we get to meet Wendy here. I love this. Like, using his x-ray vision. So again, if you're not into that type of humor, this is the 90s. It's all over the place, but it's that kind of humor right there. He explains how he got his power, so you don't really need that first demon issue in here. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit different. His first target is the Joker, so he has to go to Arkham Asylum to kill the Joker. And that's the plan that Pat gives him. I love how he hits on Wendy. He's pretty smooth with the ladies. And he doesn't even lie. He's like, yeah, I'm an assassin. I'm a hitman. It's what I do. And she's like, oh, yeah, right. This is one of my favorite moments right here from issue number 1. So Batman finds out that his next target is the Joker. And Tommy's like, oh, crap, it's the Batman. And he just takes off running. It's because he's such a good guy. He's like, I can't kill this guy. Oh, he's got x-ray vision, so he can see the armored bat symbol. So he shoots and aims for that and knocks him off the building and takes off running. Of course, it's Batman. He catches up to him, punches him in the gut, and this right here is one of my favorite scenes from this particular run. I have a lot of favorite scenes, but this is where Batman punches him, and Tommy just throws up on him. Of course, off screen, but you get the idea how grossed out Batman is. So Tommy gets arrested. We are also introduced to this detective right here. This is Detective Teigl, who is all part of... I love that. Look at that. The Gotham Police Department. So that is something I forgot to say. This is, she's part of the GCPD. So this is all taking place in Gotham, but it's a small part of Gotham. It's called the Cauldron. And it's like the Irish district. So yes, with a name like Tommy Monahan, he is Irish. And he hangs around here at Noonan's Sleazy Bar. And it's part of this small little, created for the storyline, part of Gotham City called the Cauldron. So yeah, Pat is the guy that gets him the jobs. He goes in to kill the Joker, and this demon is there with a bunch of guns, and that is, of course, like I mentioned, the Mauser, who is this demon from hell who enlists on trying to take Tommy to be a hitman for the Arcanons, and unfortunately, he fails because there's a team up. I love the different characters. And McCrae's art style, to some people, I've heard this before, seems cartoony, but I think it fits this story completely fine. And I think the contrast between black and whites is just amazing. Detective Teigl is one of the good cops, by the way. She wants to help out. She wants to be a help to the corrupt system that's in the GCPD. So it's somebody that like Batman would trust. So yeah, Joker's storyline gets a little bit it doesn't go in the way that Tommy wants it to go. As a matter of fact, the ending of this is hilarious. So Tommy ends up getting shot, and how he's healed is awesome. But don't worry, the Mauser will come back later on to play a big part in the storyline. And if you're wondering why he wears sunglasses, when I said he had x-ray vision, what happened was his eyes went completely obsidian, like they're completely black. So he just covers it up. Now, the only problem with stories like this is Mo Dubels, and his brother got killed in that demon annual. So it's the return of like that character. So you're not supposed to know who, or you're supposed to know who he is, but when you're reading this particular issue of Hitman, you're like, wait a minute, who is this guy? Doesn't matter, right? All you know is that Tommy's a hitman, so he's had some hits in the past. This was one of them, so you can quickly catch up. You're smart. You can get a hang of all this. This is when Mo decides to actually hire Joe Navarro. What is his name? Navarone, I think. Navarone, I think that's what it is. To go and kill Tommy for something that happened in that demon annual. And this is when he runs into his best friend right here, which I call Pat, but it's not. It's Nat the Hat. This is Nat Walls, who is Tommy's best friend. He grew up in Detroit. He left Detroit, ended up joining the Marines, and that's where he became friends with Tommy. In this issue, you find out that he came back because he was escaping this gang, and his mom passed away. And it's really sweet because he tells, Tommy that to drop dead, and Tommy's like, whoa, what's with all this drop dead stuff, man? Cut that crap. Why don't you curse like you usually do? And Nat's like, man, my mom died, and her last wish was for me to stop cursing. And I thought that line right there tells you exactly what kind of person Nat is. Now, does he get back to cursing? Well, things happen in this story that, yeah, he can't help it. All right, so yeah, the story goes from there that he's a hitman. He's made some enemies along the way. This is, what is this, Night Fist? Yeah, this is the vigilante Night Fist who he's got a hit on. This is the character of Johnny that I was talking about that is hired to go and kill him. He's another hitman. Navarone is a hell of a hitman. So much so that something ends up happening here that kind of surprised a lot of us reading the series at the time. And I'm going to skip a little bit because the bar is usually the scene where you're going to see him. Like, I love the action. I love the adventures they go on, hit after hit, or you'll see later on, like some stories where they have to go and free a nation, for example. But my favorite stories are the ones in Noonan's bar. Like, this is Six Pack, who is a hero in his own head. He's a drunken guy that dresses up like a superhero, but pretends to know Batman, pretends to be part of the I think he calls them the Justice Friends, not the Justice League or the Justice Society. I forgot to talk about my favorite, or the reason I started getting the series to begin with. This issue right here. This is issue number 8. This is my first issue of Hitman. I did not get his first appearance in the Demon Annual number 2 because I was busy getting first appearances in those poly bags from all the annuals at Marvel Comics in the same year, 1993. But I got this because it was part of the Final Night crossover. And this is what made me go and check out the rest of the story, the rest of the issues, the ones that I had missed, including the Demon Annual. This is part of the Final Night where the entire world went dark because something is eating the sun, and Noonan's bar is still open, to friends. They don't have any lights. Murder's going on outside. The entire world is falling to hell. They don't know what Superman's gonna do. So what these friends do is they sit around the bar and they tell stories. This is called The Night the Lights Went Out. And Tommy and Hacken and Ringo and Nat and Sean all sit around the bar telling stories about the time they came closest to death. And each one of them is different in just all kinds of ways. Like, I'll just tell you a little bit, like, this is creepy. Like, Ringo actually thinks he saw death. That was the closest he's ever come to it. And of course, Tommy tells the story of a childhood when he first picked up the gun. And I love the reaction that Sean has. I didn't know you kids were playing with guns. I'd whoop your ass if I knew, and taking those guns away. But that issue hooked me. And I was leaving comics during this time. It was like one of my final issues. I went back and got the rest of the previous issues. And I didn't make it that much further. So when I came back to comics in 2002, one of the first things I got my buddy Shaka to actually sell me were his complete run of Hitman. And man, what a ride. Like, I thought that was good. It gets better and better. So Wendy eventually finds out about him. And, guy can't be alone. So he starts hitting on this lady, Tygo. And you'll see what kind of guy he is. He's so complicated. Like, these two people get drunk, right? Detective Tygo and Tommy get drunk. A lot of people get drunk. Oh, the issue with Green Lantern is so good. He takes Green Lantern out drinking, and Kyle's still being new to this. Like, he's like, all right, man, now it's your turn to buy everybody a drink. And Kyle's like, I don't have any pockets. How am I supposed to get everybody a drink? I love that reaction. But there's a scene between Tygo and Tommy where both of them are getting drunk, and where he could take advantage of her, like a little angel and a little demon pop up, saying the exact same thing, just in different tones. So it's like you get a little bit of the inside of his head, how he thinks, and why somebody like this, a guy that is not afraid of killing, that a guy that actually looks forward to killing, has morals and what they are, where he decides to draw the line. Yeah, I don't want to give you exactly what happens in that Green Lantern storyline, but it's not the team up you think it is. This is the zombie aquatic place right here where this mad, I can call him a mad scientist, starts experimenting, bringing creatures back to life. And Hacken ends up living up to his name right here. Let's fast forward a little bit. And, oh, Catwoman. The reaction between Nat and Tommy when Catwoman approaches them. They're like, oh my gosh, she's so dreamy. Like, it's ridiculous. What they say about her. But this is the return of Malzir, the demon that tried to recruit Tommy. And he wants revenge. So he gets Catwoman involved. So this becomes a really interesting story. Now, eventually, Etrigan, the demon who he's had connections with in the past, gets involved. And during this storyline right here is when kind of all hell breaks loose. Like, this is where Six Pack, he gets his old team back together again. And his old team is called Section 8. And Section 8, I has one of the best... Okay, I'm sure people have their favorite character in this super team, but my favorite character is Dog Welder. He's just a guy that dogs, like, he just welds dogs to people. So I guess if you're an animal lover, skip this book. Maybe I should have said that. I forgot about that until I was flipping through here. It's just a quiet dude. He welds dogs. Like, I think a lot of people's favorite character is Bueno Excelente, who is a creepy character. Like, he's mysterious. There's Flemgem, who I'm sure you probably saw right here. But that is the team that gets to help out when all hell is breaking loose. So even though Six Pack is this drunken bum, I love the way that he picks on Kyle Rayner, by the way. When he's like, yeah, I'm a member of the Justice Friends. I can't remember what he calls them. And Kyle's like, what? There's no way. And then, just how he pokes fun at him. You don't know if he's that drunk that he's being serious, that he really thinks he's part of the Justice League. But this is the Santa Claus issues right here. And let's keep going. The Christmas story. Because eventually what we're going to see here is some flashbacks. We're going to see a long storyline that takes place in the past when some of the team got involved with the Special Air Service from Britain. So you'll see a little bit of a flashback, and it's the return of this particular villain. So it's this villain known as Mensroom Louis, that's his name, who's like a mafia boss, and he has a bone to pick with Tommy. So that leads into the next storyline, which is the one that kind of wraps up this, and that is the Tommy's Heroes storyline. So by the time you get to the final storyline, Tommy's Heroes, that's where you get the big payoff from the previous storyline with Who Dares Wins, with that character of Mensroom Louis. This, I think, is where the book really hits for people. This is where you see the brotherhood between friends and what it means to be a friend and what they are willing to do for each other, even though if you look at the surface, they're horrible people. But this is where you learn to cheer for them more and more. This in the previous storyline, I think. This is the one where pretty much Nat and Tommy get hired to go to Africa. Like, they take a job down there because they're supposed to be training an army filled of unskilled people to go and try to take over this particular dictator. And the outcome of this is just freaking amazing. Like, I didn't see it coming. And it does have some flashbacks just like the previous storyline. But I think that's all I will say about it. So let's talk about what is collected in the rest of this omnibus. So in the back is where you're going to find the actual stories that predate the Hitman stories. You're going to find his first appearance right here. in Demon Annual number 2. And this is where you meet Tommy. He's a little bit different. Like, I mean, he's still the same kind of character, but it was before he got his powers from this aliens that were kind of kicking people's metagenes during this Bloodline storyline. Yeah, he's supposed to kill this guy, but he gets interrupted by this alien demon creature, and it pretty much puts this thing, like his tongue, in the back of his neck and activates his metagene, which is the power of X-ray and telepathy. And he becomes a hitman. Now, he loses the little scarf there later on. Also collected here are the other appearances through the Demon comics. So before the Hitman comic was a thing, this is the storyline where Etrigan becomes Hell's Hitman, because he's at war with one of the demons down there. Oh, and this is also the first appearance of this character, Master Bader, who actually will end up, you'll see more of in the second volume, who becomes a bartender at Noonan's Sleazy Bar. But he appears through here. So some of the characters that you're going to see through this series were borrowed from the Demon storyline. Suffer the Children is another one where pretty much Jason Blood decides to separate himself from Etrigan, so he ends up hiring Tommy to help him out. But yeah, it doesn't go the way that you would think. The Carlos Esqueda issue right here, the annual, is all the way in the back. And if you're not familiar with Carlos's artwork, you need to go and check out Judge Dredd, because he's an amazing artist. But that is all the way back here, and that is told through like a Western style. So this is where Nat and Tommy become involved in this. It's like a power struggle in this little Texas town. This one kind of reminds me of a story in Preacher. Now, all the way in the back is where you're going to find Kevin Smith's introduction to Hitman 10,000 Bullets. By the way, I don't think, little handbook here, or guidebook, I don't think this is the inspiration for the Hitman movies or video games, right? Like the bald guy. Didn't WB put those out? You get original art through here. And you do, I'm sure you probably saw the script right here. And then you get the pencils to inks. You can see the contrast right here so much better when the inks are done. And then the rough sketches and layouts to the finish work. And this is the cover sketch right here for issue number 13. And uncensored versions of the Demon 43, pages 16 to 17. And this is where pretty much somebody ended up losing their head right here, as opposed to the edited version that came to print. And this is uncensored versions of Demon 43, page 18. And Hitman number 1, page 23. And it's pretty much censoring the violence is what's happening right here. And I think this, yeah, so they probably had to, it's interesting, like, this book is full of violence, but they had to hide the vomit from Batman's body. Maybe it's like poking fun at Batman. That's a little too much, crossing the line there. Detective Comics. And, of course, the sketches to the cover here. Who, I guess from the beginning, they wanted to have six-pack there. And the bio on Garth Ennis, John McCrea, Steve Pugh, and Carlos Esqueda. And your end sheets. Now let's talk about this binding. 1,074 pages sewn binding, and that's what the eye looks like. The paper stock in this particular omnibus is very similar to the paper stock they've been using in the latest DC Omnis. Not quite glossy, not quite matte, so it's like a satin type of paper stock. The binding itself, I really didn't have any problems with. Very, very little bleed through happening. It's minor, but it does happen. You know, it's you just can't help it with this type of paper stock. But the way the book laid over was okay. I mean, towards the beginning, because of the glued, just so much glued binding down there, I had to open this up like 7 times to stretch the spine. You do have just a little bit of it trying to close on you, but I think it's okay now. And really minimal gutter loss. But then again, when you're looking at McCrea's artwork here early on, especially, there's not like a lot of splash pages. It's or spread pages rather. It's mainly splash pages like this. So yeah, I mean, minimal gutter loss. But that is it. One of the best. Oh my gosh. And Okay, one more thing, I promise, and then I will let you go. This is the last thing I'll say, because if I haven't sold it to you by now, I got one more thing to say. Because if you don't like hyper violence, I get it. Not for you. Get it. If you're not, your stories aren't like that hyper masculinity, about guys and brotherhood, I get it. Not for you. When it comes to Garth Ennis, there's always different layers to his stories. I've always said that people miss out on Preacher because it is blasphemous. It is, right? Like, broken down, it is a blasphemous book about horrible people. But if you look past that, if you get past it, it is one of the most beautiful love stories. And that ending always makes me cry, just like the ending of this book. Not this one, but the ending that will be in volume 2. The Boys is like a love letter to superhero comics. It may not look like it. It may not seem like it at first because, that's what they're trying to kill is superheroes. But it is. Just like the Punisher's multi-layered. His Punisher Max run, people get fixated on the over-the-top violence that happens, right? But there is a deep story about PTSD in there. This is a story about a group of men who have a past, a violent past, and how they deal with it. The reality of what a violent past does to you. Not the super happy ending Hollywood style reality of what a violent past does, right? Like you expect things to go good. They don't. There's a lot of things that go wrong for Tommy and his friends. And it's a reminder that that violent past, no matter how good you try to become, trying to redeem yourself, no matter how good of a person you think you are, it will eventually catch up to you. And when you get there, oh my gosh, it's some wonderful moments in here. Heartbreaking, but wonderful moments. I think that's all I will say. Now, that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code Near Mint Condition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on picking this up, if you have the trade paperbacks, if this is something you have been wanting for years and it's finally coming out, and hopefully the pre-orders and sales are good enough to get a volume 2 soon, and I mean right around the corner, because the best is yet to come. Now, any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.